Unmute these nuts.
These nuts.
Not to be
Oh my
confused with
God.
ABs.
Oh,
Thanks, but you can just call me the Bajan Mahale.
you
Captain Bajan Mahale.
Captain.
No,
No,
just
Bajan.
just
Bajan
Bajan Mahale. So you know what happens when you run out of Sailor Jerry, but you still need some magic in your life? You get unicorn moonshine. Oh God, don't disappear on me. That's right.
Unicorn.
Magic
Not real. That's why it keeps
unicorn
disappearing.
moonshine.
All right,
Just
there.
put a little bit of magic in your day.
All right, there.
Yes.
Voldemort Parasite Edition. No.
Mm.
Okay.
No, I got it.
Oh,
I appreciate
yeah.
it.
Daniel, I was too busy feeling the magic. Okay, don't interrupt.
I've got the
process.
magic in me. Every
Sounds like a
time
medical
I
condition.
pour that drink, it turns into gold.
Every little thing she does is magic. Every little thing just turn me on. Yeah. Ladies and
All
gentlemen,
right.
it's time. It's time. It's
Are we dueling? Are we dueling pianos? Are we dueling
I don't know.
banjos?
Do you want
Ding
to?
ding 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 ding.
I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. Daniel, kick us off. Let's go.
He's got a lot of Sailor Jerry and or unicorn blood in him. Well, hello,
That's like a very
everyone.
nice way to say you're fucked up. Like, are you okay? Are you fucked up? It's just a bunch of unicorn blood.
There you go. I like that. Well, all of us here have a little unicorn blood in them, and that's because we're the Black Tower podcast. We're a Wheel of Time podcast.
We're known for our magical colors.
Yes, our communion that includes eating the flesh of a leprechaun and taking a shot of unicorn blood.
That's what makes me so special.
As the founding
unicorn
dragons
blood.
intended.
I'm winning. I'm just winning so much that I'm just always winning. All right, you know the score, you know what you're here for, but just to make sure that anybody who has stumbled in here from the street knows what is in store for them, I am one of your hosts, the Amin Khan Mahale Daniel.
I am your Mahale of last minute planning and trying to make things happen and it just being really not favorable. Mahale, also known as the Bajan Mahale, Andrew.
And I am the Mahale of lost dreams and broken things. The 80s synthwave Mahale, Sorovan. Josh,
The Sorovan Mahale would be the emo Mahale, wouldn't he? I call the storms. No one ever wants my storms. They're never good enough for everybody. They always give me notes on my storms.
Right.
Like the storm inside.
All right, little Nicky.
I know, right? Oh, good Lord.
life is a storm. Life is a storm, guys.
All right, and with that out of the way, you should go to blacktowerpod.com because it's not sad, it's not emotional, it's just awesome and a fun place to get news about the Black Tower podcast.
It's not nearly as awkward as this episode's intro was.
Some days it is, though.
I mean,
Someday.
it might be. Morshadi's running naked through the forums again. It might be a
That's
little
true.
awkward for the
He
uninitiated.
does that every once in a while.
But It does have all of the information that you need about the Black Tower podcast, so you should go check it out. It's awesome. It's fun. It's a rockin' good time. And after you've gone and checked out the blacktowerpod.com, you should then go to thegreatblight.com, which is a collaboration of Nabliss and a number of others who are putting together a pretty awesome index comprehensive list, well put together UI setup of basically all things Wheel of Time. You can find content creators on there of so many different varieties, whether they be artists, podcasters, TikTokers, you name it. And also a pretty extensive wiki of the story that one of the coolest parts is spoiler free. So if you are only up to book 4, you just go ahead and look at the wiki up to book 4, and you don't keep going, and you will not be spoiled on what awesome things Egwene does in book 9.
If she's alive still.
Or the fact
don't
that
know.
Dumbledore dies in book 6, you know?
And maybe gets resurrected.
No, Dumbledore doesn't get resurrected. Just, I'm going to throw that out there.
But he might.
But he doesn't.
But he
Yes,
Dude, spoilers!
Yeah,
We're
again,
past the statute of limitations, right? That's like
right? No,
20 years
exactly.
ago.
Dumbledore dies. Bruce Willis has
Well,
been dead the whole time.
Unless they turn
The
spoilers to Harry
Titanic
Potter
sink-
into felonies, then there is no statute of limitations.
Right, exactly. Then the Titanic sinks. Rosebud is the name of the sled, and
All right, more shotty. And Batman turns out to be Bruce Wayne.
what? But anyway, there you go. You should go check out those 2 sites on your run through the internet at large. Jesus, I'm yawny tonight. That's
You
not good.
are Yanni.
But how's
Live in the
everybody's-
Greek amphitheater.
Spent too much
Indeed.
time playing D&D's The Yawning Portal.
Indeed. Tales from the Yawning Portal. But how are you guys doing today? How have you guys been? Getting ready for Jordan Con? We're getting excited for
Getting
Jordan
ready
Con.
for Jordan Con.
By
Lots
getting
of
ready
things
for
going
Jordan
on.
Con, you mean a series of unfortunate financial decisions? Yes.
I thought that was the actual prep for a convention.
Yeah, I was
mean,
gonna say I'm
It sounds to me like you're doing it right.
Yeah, but I prefer to make my unfortunate financial decisions at the convention, not before the convention.
That's fair.
poor K no lows dose.
Because like most Americans, my bank account has a finite number,
What?
and I do not wish to see that finite number tick over into the little dash sheet in front of it.
I mean, I change colors to red.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
start
never
getting
good.
angry letters from Wells Fargo.
Yep. Same.
I'm proud to say that the Ashaman coat that I'm stitching by hand is coming along nicely. The outer layer and the lining both have 2 sleeves. Okay. And sleeves are their own special kind of Shale Ghoul.
Why do you
Sleeves are
have
the worst.
4 sleeves on your jacket?
Because the outside sleeves and the liner on
So
the
try
inside
to
of
do
the
a good
sleeves.
General Grievous impersonation. Your ribbon will make a fine addition to my collection.
Hello there.
Nameless Morden.
But no, I got to put in some pockets. Got to connect the 2 together, and then do like some finishing touches, like some cuffs and a collar. Has to have the collar. Sewing in the buttons, all the goodness there. And then once that's done, hopefully it's ready for Jordan Con. And if it's not ready for Jordan Con, it will definitely be ready for WatCon.
There you go. I look forward to seeing it WatCon then.
All I have to do, all I have to do is make my jacket, and the way I make my jacket, it's very unique methodology that I use, where I go into a store that sells jackets, and then I take this piece of plastic with NFC capabilities out of my wallet, and I exchange digital numbers for said physical cloth.
And then you bring that physical cloth to a convention and you wear it, and people go, wow, that looks really nice. And you go, yeah, I didn't make it myself. Look at this fucking joker over here.
I bought it.
Playing
I
some
made it
4D
myself with the
chess.
money I earned.
Playing some 4D chess up in this.
With one simple swipe, you too can turn dollar bills, y'all, into a fancy Ashamon coat.
What was it? There was a video going around for a while where everybody was like talking shit on like RPGs where someone can just buy equipment,
Oh yeah.
and they were all like, that's so stupid. I played the game, I earned my equipment. And the guy was like, yeah, I went to work and earned the money and bought the equipment. So I earned it too, just a different way. Like, you're not better.
Which
I
is
was like,
fair.
that's actually a really good point.
A fair point, even though I am still vehemently against pay to play games.
Well, no,
Pay for
so
all the
that's
cosmetics you want. Absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
But
So-
if I could go and I can just start the game, drop $20, and most people now can't actually touch, they can't do enough damage to me, or I can one shot everybody at like level
Sure.
4.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's terribly.
Yeah, that was
unbalanced.
actually what I was gonna say is, look, I appreciate that argument. I really do. I absolutely get it, and I very much appreciate that we're all adults in this room, and we all have jobs.
Blink twice
We
if
all
you're being
have to
held
go to
hostage,
work.
Daniel.
We all have, things that we need to do. That does not mean that we can go and play video games all day. But at the same time, I also appreciate the idea of, okay, I get that you like video games and don't have time to play them. Welcome to activities. That's how they work. If you want to play a video game, play a video game. Don't buy a video game and then buy a video game and then play a video game. Buy a video game and then earn a video game. Like, that's how it should work. I'm not trying to gatekeep on people, but again, it's like, this is the activity. Either do it right or don't do it at all. You can't just come in and say, hey, fuck you, I earned money so that I can do it wrong. Like, you don't just get to walk onto a horse ranch and say, I will pay you $80 and now I'm suddenly good at horseback riding. You have to earn being good at horseback riding. You can't just walk onto a plane and say, cool, I'm going to drop $75 to be good at paragliding. Like, that's not how that works.
I paid good money to be wrong.
Yeah, no, for any activity besides like a very select few that are specifically designed that way. And while video games can be designed that way, I get that. I appreciate that. It is a way that they can be put together. The people going ahead and saying that's not how this should work. The people saying, if you don't want to play the video game right, don't play it at all. Also known as, if you don't want to learn how to ride a horse, don't ride a horse. Like, they're not incorrect. Even though that person who walks in and says, well, I don't have that much time, I just want to play some video games. They're not totally wrong either. It's just one of those weird things where, like, because you have the option doesn't mean the option's right.
There's another group of people who feel that same way. But before we get into it, I think we should protect our listeners.
I agree.
That was a good one. I was like waiting for the chance to segue into that, and you smooth motherfucker. But I'm still going to get my segue in because you know who else are smooth people? These lovely voices from the audiobooks.
This episode contains spoilers from the entire Wheel of Time series.
If you have not read the series, you are at risk of being spoiled.
You have been warned.
Damn. From
If you
the
wanna-
goats
with it.
themselves.
If you want to meet them in person, come to WatCon. It's in
That's
July.
true.
And it's also on my birthday. So be
So-
there and pay for all of my stuff because I just happen to be born on a day, and that means you should pay for everything for me. My parents fucked and they kept me around. So yeah, you should pay for everything on this particular day.
That's it. I'm glad you
Oh.
understand how it works.
But people that also feel super entitled, like everybody else should give them everything because damn it, they fucking earned it and deserved it and sold their soul to Shaitan himself. We're talking about the Black Ajah, folks.
That's true. We are.
What?
They're not real. Fake news. Conspiracy. It's a witch hunt.
Yeah, we're talking about the not Ajah because of course they don't exist. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. You want to talk about a group of people who do not subscribe to pay to play.
To our YouTube
They do
channel.
not. They do not. And you've got the White Tower, who's very much, not only are they of the mindset of you don't pay, and if you can't do the thing, just don't do the thing because it's too dangerous. If you can't do the thing, don't do the thing because it's too dangerous and you're too valuable, right? It's kind of like their like helicopter mom mentality, like, don't do it's dangerous, which granted it is. There's a lot of dangerous things to do with one power. But the Black Ajah, the not Ajah, the non-Ajah, if they were to exist, one might say that they would only be able to exist through constant work, constant vigilance, constant perseverance. It's this really weird sort of dynamic when it comes to the forces of the shadow, because some of the Forsaken are inept. I mean, they are just so worried about like what the other guy is doing that they never actually accomplish anything, or they have like one glowing moment where they do a good thing. But for the most part, they're just kind of inept. Like they're non-players. The Black Ajah, not only have they been growing numbers, if they were to exist, hypothetically speaking, but they would also be like growing the culture that is actively eroding the White Tower. Like, I would argue they'd be the single most successful organization for the Shadow.
Could be.
Well, then, that's a statement.
There's a whole lot of layers of bureaucracy to the Black Ajah.
Like ogres.
Yes. Absolutely, just like Ogier. No, not Ogiers, ogres. But I'm gonna like flip them for the rest of my life. Like, oh, have you seen the ogre? The Ogier? Yeah.
I just look at it and I see this. Like,
Can
okay,
we have one of the Ogier in the show just be voiced by Michael Myers? By Mike Myers? Mike Myers, not Michael Myers. Mike Myers.
No, Michael Myers is
Just
a
in the
totally
back
different.
with like a fucking like, mask on and a knife.
Welcome
I
to
hate
the
that's
setting.
I hate that that's a thing.
It's an
That should
overly
never have
stretched
been a
out
thing.
mask too.
Mike
It's like-
Myers
it's like
and
half
Michael
on.
Myers.
It's like Loyal with the
Ugh.
Michael Myers mask, like half on.
I would,
Why
I
are
would-
humans so hasty?
They have the walk speed down for it for
Stop
sure. Though.
running away.
Michael
No,
Myers is
but
a case
honestly-
study in why the Ogier are right about you don't have to rush.
If just fucking Elder Haman was just, what are you doing? We need to go convene the Great Stump. We can't do anything until we've done the Swamp Donkey. I mean, Loyal.
The steading.
That's when all the
No, but-
Ashraman like come into the steady. He's like, get rid of all the fairy tale creatures out of my steady. Oh no.
Hello, fairy tale creatures.
Hello,
Um,
Ashaman from the Black Tower. Get the
Same
out
energy.
of the standing
Same energy.
right now.
What are you doing in my steading?
Oh, what's the homie who travels around with Loyal for a while? They're like going and closing the gateways.
Gol? Doesn't Gol go with him for that?
Yeah.
No, but it's not just go. I mean, he's a good.
No,
but the
it's also,
Ashaman.
it's the sniffer dude
Yeah,
from Faldara.
Not is that
Hurin?
Julian or here?
No, it's
thought it was
the
Hurin.
which Ashaman? All right, I'm gonna look
We
it
gotta
up.
look
You
it up.
guys do other stuff. I will look this up so that I
We'll
can
talk about
say-
the actual subject.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but again, like remind me, I'm probably incorrect on this, but Alviar and
Carlden Manfor.
I knew
That's
that,
the one
yeah.
who keeps on gatewaying him around to go ahead and like do different stuff.
You're right. I was
and he
thinking
could
man 5,
absolutely,
not man
yes,
4.
indeed,
My
yeah.
I was thinking man 3.
And he
Oh.
definitely, well, both of you were wrong and can suck it.
bad. I don't want to suck man
definitely-
4. That's a lot of man.
He should then go ahead and be played by Eddie Murphy, and he can walk around being like, "That is a nice Waygate." I say,
I like that
nice
Waygate.
I like that Waygate.
Um,
And in the morning, I'm making lembas bread. Wait, shit, that's the wrong bit.
And in the morning, I'm making honey cakes.
There you go. Anyway, all
Alright.
right, sorry. Alviarin, you were talking about Alviarin before I so rudely
I think
interrupted again.
she's like the highest, most loftiest rank that the Black Ajah has ever attained in their history.
You mean like
partially-
her being part of the Black Ajah as a ranking official
As the
in the White
keeper.
Tower?
Yes, as the keeper of the Chronicles.
Okay.
Which is funny because somebody else also attains that like real quick after her, and then
Literally
Also
pops
is
upside-
discovered to be, yeah.
Like, oh hey,
Yep.
I can do that too.
But they also, I will say this though too, they have an unfair advantage, right? They are in regular communication with, well, I mean, regular communication. But they get guidance every, what is it, like 47 years or something like that, that Morden is able to come out and play.
40, yeah.
They get guidance every so often. They get their questions answered.
Every
As a
960 years,
result-
they get 40 years of guidance.
Yeah. And as a result, you know, they get to know things. They get to know things like, hey, guess what? We can take the oath rod and undo the oaths that we took when we became Aes Sedai.
they
That
don't even
gives
need to
us-
do that.
But that gives us, not only does that give us the ability to lie, but it gives the shadow a chance to have them take dark oaths, a completely different set of oaths. And you know, it again, it's
Bruh.
almost a hubris kind of a thing, right?
I love
Um,
you, but you know that it actually didn't require the oath rod, right? When
release
you
them from
swear
the
the
oaths?
when you swear the new oaths to the Dark One, he releases you from your bond to the oath rod and binds you to him. It didn't actually require the oath rod at all.
Well, whether
yes.
or not that's the case, they know that you can be released from the oaths. This is not widely known knowledge in the White Tower.
That is
They
correct.
They think when you take the oaths on an oath rod, it's permanent. Period.
Mhm.
End of story. You are now bound for all time and eternity to these oaths. Now, I will say, I thought that the Black Ajah had their own oath rod, and that's how they did that.
I don't know.
Because they would-
Because what I found says it like, so because they swear the black oaths on the oath rod, generally
Right.
after they use the oath rod to unswear the original 3 oaths. Because
Let's
it's
see.
yeah, because I don't see like, I don't know that Shaitan would like reach out with his power every time some piss ant Aes Sedai decided to betray the light. Like from his point of view, like to be like, too much. I don't know that it's required. Like if anybody could break somebody's binding to the oaths, like Shaitan's definitely one of the folks that could. But I could see the Forsaken, because the Forsaken direct all of these little Dark Friend organizations. Basically
Yeah.
being like, yeah, we have a binding rod left over from the times, you know, where we were alive when they were fucking made. Just use this, undo those, and now swear the next 3. But I don't know that it is required.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm looking at the wiki, the Black Ajah
Mhm.
wiki, and I actually wonder if the Great Blight. Someone pull up the Great Blight and see if there's an article on it.
Oh,
But all it says in the wiki is the members of the Black Ajah are not bound by the 3 oaths, but they do have 3 replacement oaths named the Black Oaths.
Correct.
The Wheel of Time companion revealed all 3. I shall obey. Baron also revealed all 3, didn't she?
I don't specifically remember her doing that in the scene.
I
I know that she
know
tells
she
Egwene
does
at
the
least
hour
one.
of my death. Yeah, she
Yes.
says the hour of my death because
Yes.
she takes poison and measures it to be exactly in an hour in very Aes Sedai fashion. I love it.
Yeah, she finds a loophole.
goddamn brilliant. Yeah.
yeah. So Morshadi gave us a screenshot. It looks like it might be from the companion. Black Ajah. They renounced the oaths sworn on the oath rod and replaced them with 3 oaths. See Black Oath. Which the only way we ever see that you are able to renounce the oaths is with the oath rod in hand.
That's and that's where I was going with that is when they started to hunt the Black Ajah, when Pavara started to hunt the Black Ajah, she and I cannot remember the name of the other one, the 2 that started out, they absconded with the oath rod. And
Correct.
that was their first thing, is they were like, we get to retake the oaths. How do we know this works? And they figured out that they could release themselves from the oaths and then rebind themselves by the oath rod. And you know, it was no word that is not true. I am not a dark friend. Boom. Cool. And as far as getting any other method, I don't know that we get
Let's see, what is
a
this
confirmation
reference?
of any other method of releasing them.
Crown of Swords, chapter 40 seems to be the reference under the. So if you go to the Oath Rod article, there's a section about the White Tower Oath Rod where they talk about the Black Towers found Black Ajah found a way to break from the 3 oaths while retaining Agent's face, which is basically they use the Oath Rod to remove the original oaths and swear 3 new oaths to the shadow. So let me grab my copy of Crown of Swords chapter. Yeah, because I have a copy of just the chapter.
I do love that, again, you know, they position people very, very carefully because they don't want to draw a lot of attention to themselves, right? They're very, very good at remaining low key and staying off the radar. But they have people every once in a while in specific positions of authority, such as the Mistress of Novices. Places where they can observe which sisters are potentially willing to turn to the shadow. It does say here Leandrin, which we had Kate Fleetwood on the show a while back, and if you haven't had a chance to check that out, you really should. Absolutely amazing. I'll put a link right here so you can click back to that. Go watch that though. Super great. She's absolutely just one of the sweetest ladies you'll ever get to talk to, and she plays one of the most horrible people in the books, and it's really great, and she does an amazing job with it. It's real interesting. They're almost as secretive as they're more secretive than the kin, right? They've got different operating rules because they can actually openly walk the halls of the White Tower and be like, "Yay, I'm Aes Sedai." Unlike the kin, who's like, "You've lived for 20 years here and you haven't aged. It's time to move for 10 years, and then you can come back when nobody remembers who the hell you are." Like they've got their own set of rules in there, but even the kin, with how careful they were, did not escape the notice of the White Tower. And I suppose you could say, well, they did, and they did not.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that so? The kin do escape the White Tower's notice as to their size, not their existence, but their size. But again, this is a big difference. This is a huge part of what makes the Black Ajah so successful, is that the White Tower has so much to lose if they ever admit that the Black Ajah exists. And so game theory tells you that they will deny the existence of the Black Ajah even if someone has any inkling that the Black Ajah does exist. Even if they have any evidence that the Black Ajah exists, they will be told to keep their big stupid trap shut because of the damage that it could do to the Aes Sedai and the White Tower if it ever became widely known that the Black Ajah exists, period, and or that any Aes Sedai who is currently alive, who is not Black Ajah, knew about the presence of the Black Ajah and said nothing. And so just everyone sees no evil. Everyone chooses to put their hands over their hands over their eyes, put their head in the sand, and say the Black Tower or the Black Ajah couldn't possibly exist because we are better than that. And if they ever did, we'd be fucked. So let's just pretend they don't exist forever.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of the Red Scare.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I looked at Crown of Swords, chapter 40. Literally, all it is where Galena talks about forsaking her previous oaths and taking on new ones. It doesn't give any explanation as to exactly.
Doesn't give
how.
any details.
So I may actually be wrong. There's definitely enough evidence here to go ahead and suggest that the intent was that they were actually taking the oath rod and unbinding themselves from the three oaths and then taking new ones. I always absolutely read that as when you take oaths to the shadow, it trumps the other ones that you've taken, and so you didn't actually need to do it on an oath rod, and you didn't need to do it to whatever. Shaitan is enough of a binding force to make those oaths binding and free you from others. But I don't have any true evidence to show to say that that's true, which is why I'm well able and willing to say that they actually needed some extra help from the oath rod and things like that, and that I'm just wrong.
I'll say I don't think with that. I mean, we know in history there was the reason that there is a number on the oath rod as we see it is because there were several binders or binding rods that the Aes Sedai used only as punishments, right? These were serialized inventory. You'd walk up to the armor window and said, "Here's my card certifying I'm certified on the binder. Hand it to me because I got a criminal in the backseat or whatever." So I think there's at least one time where
totally just heard you that time say binder, and I was like, fine. bind?
Yes, yes.
No. You need mustard for a binder. Rub that on the meat for a binder.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, I think you're talking about Bondo.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've gotten so off now.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm with as many things as the different Forsaken like randomly pull out of their asshole and stasis boxes and shit. One of them having a binding rod is, I think, like very easily believable. And them also looking at this, okay, the Black Ajah is under me as the Forsaken individual in charge of them or whatever. And I need them to keep their cover. If they just renounce the oaths now and they remove this binding, then they're not going to be ageless anymore. Everybody will know. So rather than teaching them Mask of Mirrors, which they might try to use against me, just give them another fucking rod. Because I don't think there's anything requiring you to renounce the oaths on the same binding rod you took them on. I think you could just do it on any of them that remain.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. I think
so. It is. Morshadi just posted something in our Discord that even more strongly suggests, if not outright proves, that I am incorrect, because Ishamael was the first to use the oath rod to remove the 3 oaths, replacing them with 3 oaths of his own.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, and where I was just getting ready to go with this, and I do like that we alluded to policies and practices adopted by the White Tower that eroded the integrity of the culture of the White Tower, which led to things like we don't experiment, we don't take risks, we don't take chances, and they're all very, it's that whole the road to hell is paved with good intentions type thing. They're all very smart decisions in the moment. We see Avienda after she goes through the crystal columns going, I see no fault in the decisions made in the memories of my progeny. They all did what was appropriate according to Giotto, and doing the right thing led to our destruction.
Who is Gia, and why are we worried about her toe?
Hey.
Because you know I'm all about that G. That G. No toe.
No toe. And the problem we run into is that the Black Ajah.
Yes, we've all done it. Yes.
We've all done it. The Black Ajah is partially only as successful because they're able to implement sort of natural protections in place, right? They're able to say, no, you shouldn't go out recruiting. The only women who deserve to be here should be women who come here. Oh, you're right. Plus, we're very important. We can't just be running around the hillside recruiting and looking for women who can channel. Besides, the ones who can learn to channel are usually pretty weak anyway. Like, that seems like a logical thing, especially at a time in which they're way too busy for anything. But you got to remember, the forces of the shadow are playing 4D chess. They're playing the long game. They don't care. They think 1,000 years from now, this is what's going to happen. And who are they taking advice from? The Dark One, who has been here before and who will be here again, and continues to try his hardest to make this happen. So what they do is they go, if we make them do this now, in 700 years, it'll be like this. And then we can make them do this. And in another 700 years, we can make them do this. And by the time we get to the Third Age White Tower in the books, you've got a tower who doesn't take risks. They don't use ter'angreal because they're dangerous. They don't explore. They don't research. They don't do any of the things that they really should be doing. They have a whole culture that essentially is built on limiting themselves to gain trust of the people around them. They bind themselves to this oath rod and say, look, I can't lie. I can only tell the truth. So now they go, yes, you wear the shawl. You only tell the truth. And bit by bit, piece by piece, straw by straw, it's been placed so that, we Aes Sedai are of a higher caliber. There are no women who would shame themselves to be so undignified as to serve the shadow. And it's an interesting play. It's a brilliant play, but it's a play that can only be made by someone who's thinking 1,000 years in advance.
Well, there's two big things that work to the favor of the Black Ajah and the Shadow, and against the White Tower. When you, I can only remember this from like learning it in combat training, so that's where I'm going to pull it from. Where it was drilled into us that the only thing worse than a bad decision was no decision. If you're getting shot at, you have to do something. Even the bad decision is still better than just doing nothing. Now, there's the obvious implication there that you can't make like the bad decision to just stand up and stare at where the bullets are coming from, like that kind of shit. Before anybody's like, well, what if I just stood up and like was like, hey, I'm over here? Like, no. So there's that. And the White Tower chooses essentially to do nothing. But we have this massive space of complacency for hundreds of years, where they have convinced themselves that they are infallible as an entity, even though they watch every last one of their counterparts in the tower all manipulate and move each other. They think, well, it can't be any worse than this. There can't be anybody, the Blue Ajah is like, well, nobody can be doing worse to the tower than the Red Ajah is, and that's why we must stand against the Red Ajah so vehemently. And so you have that, and then you have the complacency of the overconfidence in the three O's, which, like, that one at least you can kind of explain it, or you can explain it away by just unintentional ignorance, because the Aes Sedai don't even know that you can remove the O's.
Right.
In mass, they don't. I mean, by this time, like, Cat Swain does, because she did it, and just was like, I'm the only one that gets to retire. Fuck everybody else.
Well, and that's one of the things that gives Pavara the edge when she's Black Ajah hunting, is because en masse, people don't even know this is possible. And so they've, ignorantly and blissfully accepted the world that they've been introduced into. And that world states that Othrod is Othrod is Othrod. You can't change the Othrod. Othrod is Othrod is Othrod. And then they go, oh my gosh, guys, you can change the Othrod. Like you can release yourself from the oaths. And then that is when things start happening.
Just because you swore 3 oaths does not mean you swore 3 oaths.
3 oaths.
But let's talk about those, because I don't think we've actually said what they are yet. The Black Oaths, for whatever reason, they also picked 3 oaths.
We should probably also
it was a joke
too.
Yeah, it was like a riff against the White Tower.
So
did you imagine
Ishamael, shortly before the Trolloc Wars, Ishamael appeared, though perhaps using another name. He was able to find those strongly pledged to the Dark One and force them to combine into the Black Ajah. The name itself was a joke to him. And I think the 3 oaths, again, the fact that he is such a jokester, and the fact that he is like, I'm going to use all of your names and conventions against you. They're going to be called the Black Ajah. There's going to be 3 oaths. So when somebody comes and asks you whether you've sworn the 3 oaths, you can even say yes, and you're not lying. Like, all of this different stuff just feels very...
Do you imagine, like, the look on their face when they're, like, looking at the binding rod, and they're like, okay, yeah, this was used for criminals. And then some Aes Sedai that's betraying the light is like, yeah, I can't lie to any of the other Aes Sedai because we all swear these 3 oaths on this oath rod. It is a very noble thing to do that assures our confidence in one. He's just sitting there like, you're dumb.
You sure about
All
that?
of you there in your big ivory tower are dumb. This is for criminal. So the three oaths that make up the black oaths. The first one, I shall obey all commands given by those placed above me in service to the great Lord. There's a nice little loophole there. Or potentially loophole depending on how you interpret the oath of being like placed above me in service to the great Lord. They're saying only commands that are directly related to serving the Dark Lord or Great Lord, not Dark Lord, that's Harry Potter. Or does it mean just anybody that was placed above you ranking in their service of the great Lord? Second, I shall prepare for the day of the great Lord's return. Interestingly enough, doesn't require any sort of allegiance to the great Lord, just says I should be ready for when he's back. So
He's back.
Yeah. And then the last one, I shall hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah unto the hour of my death. I think that
The
one
most
is
famous
easily,
loophole.
yeah. Well, I think that one is
that's
also
the most
easily
famous one.
finessable. I think it's, I mean, if you can convince yourself mentally, it's easily finessable. I think Varen was far too, this isn't exactly what I mean, but it's the closest thing I can think of right now. Intelligent of a person, too well versed in literature.
Yes.
To interpret the third oath in a way that would have allowed her to still speak the information without actually dying. Because to say like I shall hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah, if you can convince yourself, because we know how the oath rod works, it's just off of your understanding and perception of how the status quo or whatever. You could literally just write them on a piece of paper and hold them close and then just tell somebody about them.
Well, and as we learn from Pavara's Black Ajah hunt, the thing doesn't have to be true for you to not be able to speak it. If you believe the statement is untrue, you cannot speak it.
Yep.
If you believe a lie is true, if you've been convinced that up is down and down is up, you cannot then tell someone that up is and down is down, because you believe very firmly, like no, it was shown to me. Logain was framed. He was hunted and wrongfully accused by the Red Ajah. Like he was set up. And even though that's a lie, it did its job, because enough I said I believed it.
Is it?
And so Andrew, what
We
you're
never
getting at
actually
is,
get
I mean,
confirmation that
there's
that's
more
a lie,
to-
by the way.
Like saying
Okay.
that you'll hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah, like that also just means that like you can only tell it to people that you trust that are in your close inner circle. Like there are loopholes, but just
Right.
like with the White Towers 3 oaths, the individual has to be able to unequivocally mentally convince themselves that the loopholes are the way that oath is intended. And most
This is
people
the way.
are going to look at the hold close the secrets of the Black Ajah as fucking keep your mouth shut until the 60 minutes you're gonna die. Like
I think this is where it gets to be, and fact checker Hale in Patron with like on fleek tonight. Boy's on fire. He's bringing spitting facts. Life in the Black Ajah was essentially, you're in the Black Ajah, you shut your mouth, you do as you're told. Creativity is not rewarded. and so one can say that they have the same type of restrictions, with the caveat that they're no longer bound by having to tell the truth all the time. So they can walk around and be, they do have to be careful, you know. They can't be like, ah, yes, I'm in the green Ajah, bro, you're in the blue. What? You know, you've got to be real careful about making sure you're always speaking the truth. And if you're telling a lie, it's got to be one that you can easily, like, oh, I had no idea. But this calls into question Varen, and Andrew, you kind of jumped in there. Varen, who is revealed in the chapter A Cup of Tea to be a double agent. Oh God, it's just the mind fuck there for me is unbelievable. I believe she's coerced into becoming Black Ajah.
Well, so there's actually a post that Morshadi put of the way that Varen finds some evidence of the Black Ajah.
Mm-hmm.
She is then discovered to have had information about the Black Ajah by the Black Ajah. She is
Right.
then dragged down in front of the other leaders of the Black Ajah, and as you said, coerced in some ways, or really it's just they threaten to kill her if she does not join.
Right.
At which point she decides to join because she doesn't want to die and is also a very intelligent human being and realizes that she can possibly find some leverage in the Black Ajah if she joins. So not only is she going to save her own life, she also might even be able to do some good.
Yeah, you get this sense from her, like she stumbles upon it. She, as you said, she finds evidence, she stumbles on it, and she goes, I can't look away. I am a brown Ajah. Research is life, evidence is life. I can't unsee what I have seen. She gets discovered for whatever reasons. They basically said, we're going to kill you and we're going to kill your warder unless you join. And now she's like, okay, fine, I don't want to die. I'm gonna join. And then she goes, huh, those oaths, they're kind of weak. I'll bet I could do this. And she does exactly what you're talking about, Andrew, where she does write shit down, but she's like, I'm gonna keep it close to me. I'm never gonna let anyone see. It's for me. And if someone accidentally sees it, well, that's not because I let them see it. And she has to be very careful now because she has to stay true to her oath. But it's one of those, like, okay, and she is preparing for the downfall of the Black Ajah. She wants to destroy the Black Ajah. She's preparing for the return of the Dark One. Doesn't say you have to be joyful in his return. It doesn't say you have to be preparing for the Dark One's successful return. She exploits all three oaths beautifully, which suggests there's an air of that sort of finality with the Black Ajah taking those oaths as well. So it's interesting how they can break out of the paradigm and then jump back right into the same paradigm with different color paint on the walls.
Yep.
Yeah. And I like a lot of what Morshadi is posting here in the live chat. If you want to see the live chat, go to blacktowerpodcast.com. Or
He-
no, just
he knows-
Just
blacktowerpod.com
Black Tower Pod.
and
Black Tower Pod.
join the Patreon.
He seems to know a lot about
Well, I mean, a lot of it is
about
like,
the Black Ajah, though.
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of it is like,
Abad.
at least of the last 2 or 3 segments, helps explain why members of the Black Ajah don't do anything to reveal themselves or to let anybody else know, or that kind of stuff, because it's like fucking North Korea up in the Black Ajah. You say one wrong word and you're dead. Doesn't matter how close you are. And so, like, it makes sense that people don't, but I mean, it's like anything else. If you look closely at anything in the series, you can find a fault in it, and we can, like, what if all day long. But we all know Varen's story had to go the way that it did. She had to drink the poison tea to result in her death, because that's how she was written as a character, to interpret the oaths. And it made it incredibly impactful, far more impactful than just her being like, hey, Egwene, I consider you a close friend. Let me tell you all the secrets of this undeniable evil. it wouldn't be nearly as impactful, especially in a story that centers so much on personal sacrifice and redemption. So, um, but I mentioned earlier about how much bureaucracy was around the Black Aja, while still operating as much as they had to within the bounds of the White Tower's governing structure. They had their own. They had all the members, and above all just the regular Black Aja members, you had a group known as the Supreme Council, and this was 13 Black Aja sisters that presided over the wheelings and dealings of the Black Aja. Not that they got to make all the decisions for the Black Aja, but they were essentially 13 individuals who were either the most trusted or the most senior or the strongest. They were selected for different reasons, that basically translated the orders of the Forsaken above them into actions amongst the Aja. Normally, this Forsaken was Masana, who either was all along the Brown Aja sister Daniela, or was at some point had taken over Daniela's persona. They don't know if she was always Daniela or if she had just taken over as Daniela, like impersonating or just fabricated the whole identity. And they only found out after her mind was destroyed by Egwene in Teleron Riyadh, and they found Daniela in just vegetative state. And they're like, oh, interesting. But Masana is not the only one they took orders from. Throughout the time in the tower, Masana, Balal, Lanfear, Grendel, Ishmael / Morden, they all appeared to either the Supreme Council or specifically to the head of the Supreme Council to pass on orders. As a matter of fact, Ishmael himself was the one that chose the leader, the head of the Supreme Council. And of course, he chose that old keeper of the Chronicles, Alviarin rather, to be the head of the Supreme Council. And this goes a long way to explain just the absolute confidence in dishing orders to Elida that Alviarin has. Because Alviarin is like, I am in charge of an entire Aja that you refuse to even acknowledge exists, much less know anything about. It's crazy.
Yep.
Which is crazy because normally the head of the Supreme Council is just seniority. But as Ishi came in and said, I don't give a shit. You're in charge.
Ishi does what Ishi do.
Yeah. Ishi is or
Stupid
Ishi
is
ain't.
as stupid do.
Yeah.
I think that's
but-
just the same sentence twice, isn't it?
I don't know. I know do English. So, but regardless of which Forsaken is telling them what to do, they're under all Forsaken. Like any Forsaken can show up and tell them do this, and they have to do it. But I would think that they would be held in higher esteem or higher value than your average everyday stabby McStabby dark friend. But that's not true. For the Forsaken, they're all the same level of minion filth. They're no more or less important than, I don't know, a random person in a random stable that tries to randomly stab Matt and Rand. So the Forsaken, they're all the same level of useless or useful. Who the fuck knows? Probably useless.
You are all equally worthless.
But they had no higher standing, though that didn't stop the Black Ajah from viewing themselves as above all other dark friends. Which is a bit of a theme we see amongst anybody that works for the Shadow, is they always see themselves as above everyone else who ever did anything. So, yeah.
Yep.
I dig it. I dig it. I love the Black Ajah. Hypothetically speaking, if such an organization existed, for the very real purpose of, what was it in Mistborn? They talk about Kelsier is giving Vin, she's talking about, we're in the Imperial City. We're like in the Eternal Emperor's city. Like, how does any of this exist in the Imperial? And then Kelsier basically, I can't remember the exact quote, but Kelsier basically says, "Oh, corruption is most present in the places that people least expect it." And
the
see
places
this-
where it's the most available.
and we see this in the White Tower on two hands, because we see obviously the Black Tower, or Black Ajah. Blah. This is your fault. Sorry. The Black Ajah existed now. Largely, they were very largely effectual, but they exist largely under the shadow of, they can't possibly exist because of the 3 O's. Because
Mhm.
no woman could say I serve the light and not be lying. And that's what we always say. We always say, "Oh yes, I've been Aes Sedai, I serve the light." And the other thing, the other sort of piece of this is people like Elida, who their ambition sort of blinds them. And you've got a lot of, not quite to the degree that Elida is, but you've definitely
Are they
got
Black
a lot
Ajah, or are they just a shitty person? Are they Black Ajah, or are they just a shitty person?
and which awesome. I'm actually glad Elida was not a dark friend, because
Same.
it gave not only did it give so much Slake power to the story, but it gave Egwene one of the sickest burns. I'd name you dark friend too, but they probably wouldn't even want you. Oh shit. Like, damn. One of the sickest burns. And then Alviarin is over there going,
Alviarin's already gone by the time that she says that line. I do. I've been wrong
if
enough times in
Alviarin
this episode.
was there.
It's time.
Daniel's like, I am done being the wrong one. Josh has stepped up to take the crown. Oh man.
But they so they have another advantage to like accruing numbers that the Force of the Light, or the regular Aes Sedai, whatever you want to call them, don't have. The Black Ajah can, will, and has just forcibly turned Aes Sedai.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's one of the big reasons why the Supreme Council is 13 members.
Oh yeah.
Which, with that, also the head of the Supreme Council is the only individual in the Black Ajah that knows the identity of all Black Ajah members.
Yep.
Including the members of the Supreme Council. The rest of the Supreme Council, at least by design, normally don't know the identities of all of their counterparts with them, much less all of the Black Ajah that's in operation. But yeah, you're like, hey, we're running low on people. It's like, okay, cool. Let's just trick, about 20 sisters into coming down to the dungeons that nobody ever goes into because it's dirty, and Aes Sedai are above getting dirty. And we'll just turn them.
Well, everybody outside the Green Ajah, at least.
Heyo.
Now that's getting naughty.
When Porque no los dos.
I mean, that's true. Fair. I'm not here to kink shame.
Well, and
Yeah,
this
I'll do
is one
that.
of the things that I actually have always thought was very interesting, because again, there will be an inevitable nature to having to kill sisters, both Black Ajah who don't follow the rules and sisters who you're wrong about joining the Black Ajah.
A lot better than Alabama's tradition with sisters.
Wow. Step Ajah, what are you doing?
No.
But
Oh no, stepmistress! I'm stuck in the oath rod.
Are you,
I think your oath rod is stuck in me. But yeah, so we know that sort of at the
And
beginning
in
of the
the
story,
butthole,
there's
find them.
950 Aes Sedai. 204 of them are Black Ajah.
Hey, you're stealing my shtick here, sir.
I
Keep
know,
your
right?
hands off my numbers.
Just for a second, because
No,
I
no,
want to
you're
make the point that again, Aes Sedai are always complaining about how there's not enough Aes Sedai. There's not enough Aes Sedai. There's the even the ones that we do have aren't strong and aren't as strong. You know, this, that, and the other thing about their numbers being shit and blah 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 blah. Well, legitimately, in the last 100 years or so, how many do you think have been killed because they were badly behaved Black Ajah sisters, or the Black Ajah dragged them down to the dungeons, were like, hey, you want to join the Black Ajah? And they were like, nah, fuck you, and then just got their
Hey,
throats
kids.
slit. Like,
You want to join the Black Ajah?
Hey, kid, want to see a body?
and again,
Spoiler
it's
alert,
just
it's yours.
And again, it's just one of those situations where, like, yes, I get that it's not just a single variable, because I can guarantee that the Black Ajah did not kill enough sisters to really make their numbers that bad. So much worse than in the Trolloc Wars or the Aiel Wars or whatever, 100, 300,000, 2,000 years ago. That being said, it is a big factor that, again, is two ignorances at the same time. Number one, not trying to root out the Black Ajah. And number two, never assuming that any of these deaths could have been caused by anything but accidents or natural causes or whatever, because you don't want to believe that a sister could be murdered. And you certainly don't want to believe that a sister could be murdered by another sister. So again, it's just this, like, just another instance of head in the sand and just pretending it doesn't exist or pretending it's not a problem because it hurts you if it's true.
Yeah. Like, take from the books, not from the TV show, obviously. Karine. Before the first book even begins, Karine is dead, along with
Yes.
her warrior.
Marinini.
Yeah, Karina
Karinani.
We
on her
are the
knees.
knights who say Karini.
Karini.
You shall break me, a false dragon.
It can't be done. He's at the thing.
But yeah, so again, we'll go ahead and do numbers here. You've already heard us talk about each Aja if you've listened to those episodes. If not, go back and listen to them, because this is the last Aja breakdown before we have done all of them.
Well, this is the last known Aja breakdown.
That's true. Join us next week for the turquoise Aja.
When we talk about the rainbow Aja or the
And then we'll talk about the deep blue Aja, also
There you
known as
go.
Soirain. Jesus.
The deep state.
Yeah.
they deep blow each other.
But with the exception of the yellow Aja and the red Aja, each Aja is made up of between 21 and 22.1% Black Aja members, with the yellow Aja and the red Aja being the outliers. Yellow Aja on the bottom end, percentage-wise, being 17.5%. Red Aja being on the high end at 24%. But if you average it all out and say about 21% of all Ajas are Black Aja, you'd be
right.
close enough for government work. Like Daniel mentioned earlier, so this is all using numbers of known living sisters before the events of the first book. So that's where all these numbers are coming from. Of the 950 Aes Sedai, by that count, that are in the White Tower, 204 or 21.5% of all Aes Sedai are Black Ajah. And if you're a secret undercover organization and you make up nearly a quarter of the force you're undermining, you're gonna be fucking effective. Terrifyingly, horrendously effective. Like we see, Alviara makes it all the way to Keeper of the Chronicles. And then we're like, finally, they got rid of the Black Ajah member. There's no longer gonna be one that's a Keeper of the Fuck, they did it again. And yeah, like it's terrifying. Like the easiest way to bring a country down is subversion from within, and we see that happen in the White Tower. So the Black Ajah is going to spend their entire time fostering these inter-Aja feuds and these disagreements, and they're going to try to gridlock the whole system just because it's fucking funny to them. They're going to turn the hall into the Randland's biggest kindergarten. It's this is what they want. They want diverse division. They want to stall the processes of the White Tower. They want to do everything they can to gum up the system to make it as slow and ineffective, while also making it as overly confident and cocky and self-assured as possible. Because you build that complacency, they never check to see if anything's wrong, and then you just keep everybody fighting each other. Well, they're too distracted to notice anything else happening, so that whenever you do, I don't know, use a storm as cover to murder a sitter in the hall and their warder, nobody goes, oh, you know what? It is really weird that a very powerful and very well-trained Aes Sedai died to a common storm on the seas. Nobody asked that question. They're like, oh, that's really unfortunate. Thank you for giving us the report. Yeah, no, I didn't notice any blood on your
Dang
hands. It's a weird
storms.
question.
Well, and I would
Do like
actually
Adam West from Family Guy go and stab the sea, an eye for an eye?
keep in mind as well, the Black Ajah has the
I'll
perfect
take
alibi.
these Aes Sedai back from you.
Keep in mind, the Black Ajah have the perfect alibi, the perfect airtight alibi.
Sort of.
I brought, Janine Sedai down to the
I brought
dungeons
peace
to be
and balance to my new Aja.
down to be quote unquote interviewed for a position with the Black Ajah. She rejected. We killed her, and then we literally just burned her body to ash and sprinkled the ash around the Ogier grove, the tree grove. And then when they said, "Excuse me, you were the last one that saw Janine Sedai. What happened?" Well, we talked for a few minutes about the weather. I was catching up with her. She said everything was great, and she said she was going to go visit her family in the country. And yeah, that was the last I saw of her. And they all go, so she left the tower. She'll probably be back.
See,
And
I
it's
thought
20
they
years
used the
before
ash.
anybody goes, what?
I thought they
Why
used
didn't
the
she ever
ashes
come
to
back?
make the dust in the Terangrial room, so that way they'd know if anybody was fucking around.
Oh, I like that.
All we
I like
are is dust in the Terangrial.
that. Room. Oh, yeah, there's dust in the
I can see you've been in the
room.
Terangrial room. You've got a little bit of Sister Margaret on your hands.
Yikes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Love it.
How do you know which sister I have on my hands?
I can smell her.
Oh, why don't you come down to the basement with me? We'll talk more.
But the
No,
best
no,
thing they
you
have going
come
for
down
them
to
is
the basement with me and we'll talk. Wait,
Hey,
are you Black Ajah?
Why don't
Fuck,
you
I'm
come?
Black Ajah
wait.
too. Damn it.
Not again.
Why don't you come down and turn me sometime, big boy?
I can just see like Aes Sedai pillow friend role play. Like, tell me you're Black Ajah. Ooh, scandalous. I'm Black Ajah. Wait, are you? No.
Yeah. So with the Black Ajah, just like every other Ajah that falls victim to its own desires for power, Black Ajah is, of course, no exception. They, as we mentioned earlier, are very dissatisfied with the fact that they are not considered inherently above all of the other Dark Friends. And they make many, many, many attempts to assert their dominance over these other cells of Dark Friends, who all generally resist very fiercely. There was a notable attempt that the Black Ajah talks about within their own ranks. Happened somewhere in the mid-New Era, where they were like, we control this cell, and pretty much the Forsaken were like, the fuck you do. And actually, now you used to have 5 votes during our Dark Friend socials, our leaders meetings, our teams calls, if you will. Now you only get 1 because it's just stupid. So yeah, that happened. Let's see what else really quick. Let's see. So of course, not every sister that joins the Black Ajah was a Dark Friend before they did, and they all have varying time frames where they have been aligned with the Shadow. Then you have others like Leandrin, who was a Dark Friend before she came to Tarvalon, and then sought out the Black Ajah from the moment she arrived. But then you have others like Galena Casbin, who was a Black Ajah sister for, well, I say others like it's very different, for all but 5 of the nearly 90 years that she wore the shawl or was an Aes Sedai. They preyed mainly on Aes Sedai that seemed to be at odds with the 3 Oaths of the White Tower, and seemed to enjoy lauding their power as channelers over anyone who just wasn't a channeler.
The Anakins of the
Yeah.
White Tower.
And finding ways to
The Salazar
abuse their power.
Slytherins of the White Tower.
Yeah.
You filthy little wilders.
The Leandrins of the White Tower.
So of course you would find a lot of the Black Ajah sisters taking the position of like teachers for novices and accepted. Not only does it keep them away from the other Aes Sedai that might more readily notice that, hey, you're doing some sketchy shit, it also allows them to kind of screen and evaluate everybody that comes into the tower so that they could start molding and shaping these individuals to be recruited
from day one.
From day one. And it also helps that all of the novices, at least all of them, when they get punished or have to be corrected, they go and see an individual with the title of the Mistress of Novices.
And when they walk in, she is wearing an entirely black leather garb, riding crop, and says, "You've been a bad girl, haven't you?"
Yeah.
And they always go, "Yes, mistress, I've been a bad girl."
Yes, Dami Sedai. Of 3 previous Mistress of Novices, or of all the previous Mistress of Novices, at least 3 were Black Ajah. Marion Redhill, Katarine Al-Rudin. It's like Aladdin, but not the word Aladdin. Replace the second A with an RU. And then, of course, our ever loved, but also kind of not loved, but also still kind of love Assyrium Bayanar. The one that spends so much time spanking Elaine. Not Elaine. Well, yeah, Elaine, but Egwene mainly. No, not Egwene. Because she leaves, it goes with the rebels. Because there's like 60 of the Black Ajah that leave the tower and go with the rebel Aes Sedai to go complete somewhere else.
Well, and there's the Great Purge, where the rebel Aes Sedai just unceremoniously eliminate all of the ones that they find.
True.
It's an impressive thing.
Yeah. Under the Supreme Council or the Great Council, because just like everything else in the Shadow world, everything has to have 16,000 different fucking names. I swear they're like the branch of the fucking DoD. Black Ajah sisters are organized into groups called Hearts. It's groups of 3 Black Ajah sisters who all know each other's identity, and in turn, each one of them knows at least one sister from another heart, which allows the different groups to work together amongst themselves without everybody's identity being vulnerable. Like this, I actually really respect. This is really smart. The very smart way of doing it, so that you can still get messages around to everybody. Slightly slower, but still not everybody is vulnerable should any of the normal members get taken. Because of course, the
Damn
head of the
normies.
Supreme Council could never be vulnerable.
Never.
Yeah. So they have a secret signal, which as I read the secret signal, I'm like, if I saw somebody doing this, I don't know that I would notice, but if I notice, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like that's a little weird.
Which
But
would be
basically,
the point of a signal, though.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah, but it's like one of those things, like trying to make a signal something that even if noticed, most people aren't going to pay that much attention to it. If this is something like if noticed, I think you'd sit there and be like, what is wrong with you? That could just be me. So basically, they stand with both arms held by their sides, with the thumb on each hand thrust firmly between the first two fingers, like so, like the "I got your nose" thing. But hilariously, has references to real world vulgar gestures because the visage of that symbol apparently resembles the female genitalia. I don't know. I've never seen the thumb part of the female genitalia. I don't know what they're talking about. It must be. I don't think that part exists, actually.
Is that North Harbor?
Might be.
Yeah. I think it's okay.
No,
but
if it was North Harbor, it wouldn't be there, right? I mean, you'd have to go somewhere else for that.
This fucking joke, man.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
But yeah, so that was their little secret symbol that we probably do if like they're standing somewhere, they know somebody's going to come by and they're like, we need to talk about evil. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to this. There were also public signals for public areas that was assigned to leave the tower immediately. And they each knew of like secret places to go to where they could hide or they could meet other Black Ajah sisters. But they could never tell everybody else about it or whatever. It's, I don't know. Some of this is kind of like, why is this a sentence that we're talking about? But their communication was very much think stereotypical Cold War spy movie, dead drops, secret signals to meet somewhere else. I'm sure somebody had
never go to a secondary location. Never go to a secondary location.
It's true.
Very true.
But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things about the Black Ajah, and again, I think that Robert Jordan does a very good job of setting them up very much like a spy organization, because that's, fun fact, exactly what they are.
And Robert Jordan has military experience and would have had exposure to different spy organizations.
Correct. So again, it's very well placed. I have always been very impressed with the Black Ajah, though it is also very funny because on so many levels they really are so smart and so successful and so good at this. And on so many other levels, they're such dog shit, which is my favorite thing of just like, again, your role is to do X. You do X really well. And then they're like, yeah, we do X so well. We're going to go take over a cell of Dark Friends. And then they're like, that isn't part of X. Now I need to go and tell you to stay in your lane and make you look bad, and just stop it, please. Just do X. Just that's what I want you to do. Just do X. You do it well. Keep doing it well.
You are not rewarded for creativity.
But again, they just get too big for their britches, like everyone in the Wheel of Time, and they just decide that they know better, like everybody in the Wheel of Time. And so it's really nice and appreciated to know that even this like group of super spies falls prey to their own humanity all the time. And so yeah, I think they're a great addition to the story. Also, as stated, I love that dark friends aren't the reason that all of life sucks. They're a big reason why life sucks, but they're not the only reason that life sucks. Some Aes Sedai are just shit. Some of them are Black Ajah. Just like everywhere else, some human beings are just shit, and some people are dark friends. And so I've always very much appreciated his addition of that in the story. And yeah, I mean, the Black Ajah has a lot of awesome advantages in their favor, and yet they have a lot of work to do and a lot of being very careful about certain things, and they do it really well. So those are my final thoughts on the Black Ajah. They're cool. I like them, or I like that they exist. I don't like them. Lots of them are trash, but I like that they exist.
I think if I'm wrapping up on the Black Ajah, I think that first off, it's an extremely well written plot device. It makes sense. It's there. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, that exists. Of course, that's a thing. And your rational mind tells you, of course, that's the thing. But reading the books, you're told very strictly. It's almost as if when you're reading the books, the Aes Sedai are wagging their fingers in your face and saying, absolutely not, they do not exist. You do not talk about them. And you're in your mind going, okay, cool, yeah, they don't exist. But they have to exist, right? And then when the reveal happens, of course, it's just shocking. And you're like, wait a minute, why am I shocked by this? Oh, because not only are they being revealed as being actually true, but they're fucking over some of the best characters, and it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic plot device. They've got their own challenges, they've got their own shortcomings, but they're amazing. They're an amazing group of subversives, and I really am grateful for their presence in this series. So that's it. That's my final thoughts. That's me rapping before I'm tapping.
I'm gonna go actually kind of against the grain. I am not a big fan of the Black Ajah. To me, there's like there's no surprise at all in regards to the Black Ajah. There are surprises in regards to certain individuals, or an individual. Like Varen, I think was a very well done surprise.
Right.
But it's also one of those things like, how do you make a good person that's a bad person not seem like a bad person? Well, you make them actually a good person. Is one of the ways, which is what happens with Varen. She's a good person forced to be a bad person that is still actually a good person. And so any of the bad that Varen does is either under the skies of greater good and very well hidden because she is rightfully ashamed of any of that, or she does the least bad possible and tries to alleviate it as much as she can, and really stretches the envelope of following those oaths. But it's one of those things like, if you're sitting there looking at the world and think, oh, there's corruption everywhere in the world, but definitely not here, you have some of the worst corruption. So I think it's inevitable that there had to be dark friend or shadow allied Aes Sedai. I mean, it just had to be. There was no way to get around it. And of course, they're going to have to hide because the overall doctrine of the White Tower is to resist the shadow. It makes sense. But even with all of that, even with the interference and the manipulation of the Black Ajah, they definitely made things worse for the tower. But I think ultimately the Aes Sedai themselves did far more to diminish and destroy the White Tower than the Black Ajah ever did or pushed. Though they definitely helped. And they left their mark. Yeah, it's just not something that like I'm like I've never been really excited about the Black Ajah. I mean, to me, it was less of like a really cool addition to the story and more of like a logical conclusion to the state of the rest of the world, because we spend the entire first book finding out that everywhere you think there's not a dark friend, there's actually like 3 of them. So,
Yes.
not saying I
You are
don't like them.
correct. There is no dark friend here. There are 3.
It's
So-
insect rules. If you see none, there's 12. If you see one, there's 50.
So that's not to
And
say that
the
I don't.
only effective way to kill the Black Ajah is to stamp them with your foot.
Yeah. So that's not to say that I don't like the Black Ajah. I don't. Well, I don't dislike the Black Ajah. I'm pretty neutral on the Black
Sure.
Ajah. You know, it's for me. It very much is a like. It is what it is, and of course they're there, and of course they're doing what they're doing. Though I can appreciate that. Unlike the vast majority of the rest of the Shadow Allies, they're actually fairly effective. So I'll give them that. They managed to somehow incorporate the same amount of stupid with twice the amount of effective. So, and that's my final thoughts on the Black Ajah.
There you go.
Equal stupid, twice the amount of effective.
Well,
Fair.
there you
That's
go.
a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. Thank you,
With most
everyone.
of these dark friends, it's 1 step forward and 1 step back. At least with the Aes Sedai, it's 2 steps forward and 1 step.
It's like some crazy waltz.
That's true.
Thanks everyone for being here tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being awesome. Thanks so much
GTA
for
5
checking
car
out
running
our
out of gas.
website at blacktowerpod.com. Thank you so much to our patrons who are absolutely amazing. Stick around and check out their names in the credits that's going to pop up here in a second. We want to thank you for joining us this week and receiving your weekly dose of taint. And we hope that you leave here just a little bit more insane than you first were when you arrived. From all of us at the Black Tower, I have been your Soroban Mahale.
And also, if you're listening to this live and in public and you are in Atlanta, Georgia, at a certain hotel enjoying the Con of Jordan, come say hi. I would say we're
Please.
down at the bar, but that's probably only true for Thursday night because it's impossible to get to Friday night or Saturday night.
We'll be around though.
But we'll be around somewhere. If it's Saturday, look for the 3 dashing gentlemen, dashing gentlemen. 2 dashing
Okay.
gentlemen and 1 guy that just found a suit somewhere. That's me. Walking
Black Coat
around
Saturday.
somewhere. I don't know where we'll fucking be.
We'll be somewhere. We'll be somewhere.
I don't know. I know at least 2 of us have very kind women who, for whatever reason, are willing to be seen with us in public. So I don't know why. At least on my end. I keep tricking her into it, making laugh. Anyway, I have no idea. Josh, feel free to cut that tangent out or down, like in editing, because I have no idea where the fuck I was going with that. But it's late, and I should get some sleep here soon because fucking work sucks. I've been your Bajan Mahal Andrew.
And I have been your Amin-Khan Mahale Daniel. And from all of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, you have been wonderful. And we're glad that you still stick around and hang out with us as well. And we hope that you're having a lovely morning. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Always watching, always
I
running
love
the
it.
show.
In the tower, you can bring your pain. In the tower, you can feel the strain.
You've been having so much trouble just fitting in.